It's on India. It's been months that there have been allegations by your government against India, but no arrests. The tension seems to have intensified. What do you see as an exit? We're very concerned by India's decision, the decision that it made this week. That decision was to act in contravention of international law. They unilaterally revoked the diplomatic immunity of about 40 Canadians. Let's put aside our serious allegations when it comes to the violation of international law, coming with the announcement that we believe that they may have participated in the assassination of a Canadian on Canadian soil. Their actions this week to unilaterally revoke diplomatic immunity of 40 Canadian diplomats. This is something that should be a concern to all countries in the world. If one country is allowed to simply revoke those diplomatic protections that are in place for diplomats, then the world will become more and more uncertain. And a decision to ignore the Vienna Convention on diplomats should be of concern to everyone. And that is putting aside the serious allegations we mentioned a few weeks ago.
The actions that the government of India took this week are themselves contrary to international law. The government of India decided to unilaterally revoke the diplomatic immunity of 40 Canadian diplomats in India. This is a violation of the Vienna Convention governing diplomacy. This is them choosing to contravene a very fundamental principle of international law and diplomacy. It is something that all countries in the world should be very worried about. And this is putting aside the allegations we made of a serious violation of international law with the alleged killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil that the Indian government could have been involved in. This is a matter, putting that aside, that all countries should be concerned about. The government of India decided to cancel, to revoke the diplomatic protections of 40 diplomats working in Canada, working in India. This is something that has far-reaching consequences for the diplomatic world that I know many, many countries are very worried about. But it also has very real impacts on the millions of people who travel back and forth between India, as students, as family members, for weddings, for businesses, for the growing trade ties between our countries. The Indian government is making it unbelievably difficult for life as usual to continue for millions of people in India and in Canada. And they're doing it by contravening a very basic principle of diplomacy. This is something that should concern everyone, but it's something that has me very concerned for the well-being and happiness of millions of Canadians who trace their origins to the Indian subcontinent.
Good morning, Mal Hamid with the Canadian Press. Israel's government has voted to destroy Hamas. Canada's own ambassador to the UN, Bob Ray, has also said that Hamas has to be destroyed. Is that the position of your own government? And if so, what support is Canada providing for that effort to be achieved beyond words?
Hamas is a terrorist organization. They have been recognized as such for many, many years, if not decades, by the Canadian government. And they launched one of the most horrific terrorist attacks on civilians in history. Hamas's actions are absolutely indefensible. And Israel has the full right to defend itself in accordance with international law. This is why we call upon the return of all hostages immediately, and we call upon protection of civilian life in the region and around the world.